Welcome back to In the Meantime episode Love Thy Neighbor. Oftentimes, these episodes or scriptures, the Holy Spirit has these come to me based off of an experience that I've had like a week before, a month before, whatever it may be, or a lesson that He's like currently walking me through or teaching me. So, how often can we say that we're praying for our quote unquote enemies, our neighbors, individuals, who have done something wrong to us, friends who we no longer talk to anymore because there's been a big fallout? I think, especially with the state that the world is in currently, um, and the different, just I think ways of thinking, and maybe you feeling like you're seeing some true colors coming out. um, Even if they do believe in God, even if they are a Christian. And these situations like are really tough to be able to walk through. And I can't say I've never been in those, that I've never been petty or held anger towards someone a little too long, right? Instead of letting it go. Even though we know, it takes more energy to be petty, to be angry, to feel these emotions against somebody or do certain things versus just, let me just let that go. Let me just breathe and let it go. Recently, we had a lesson on just like intimacy with Jesus, and we went over kind of like, why do you trust certain people, Because we all know that the people that we trust, we have a relationship, right? So we want to make sure that we're having that relationship with Jesus, but also there's the flip side of that where there's the risk involved, right? If I let go of this, is my relationship strong enough with Jesus just to trust that He is going to follow through? Is my faithfulness strong enough to trust that He is going to follow through? And I think, that letting go of that control obviously comes with us having that relationship with Jesus. If you don't have that, then of course you don't trust. Same way with people. I don't know that person. I don't have a relationship with them. There's no trust involved. So we had referenced Matthew 26 of just how Jesus had sat with his disciples, right? I think you all know the story. He sat with his disciples, and he was just letting them know, hey, in a couple of days, somebody's going to betray me. So that's Matthew 26, verse 20 through 21. He says this person who betrays him eats with him daily. They pass him food at the table. And, everybody's questioning, like, and getting up in arms of the 12 disciples, like, wait, is it me? Really in disbelief of like how somebody so close to him who has a relationship with him would be able to portray him like that. Somebody who he trusts would be able to portray him like that. And even knowing this, so looking at Jesus' point of view, even though he knew that these things were to come about and come true, in that moment, he still sat down at that table and broke bread with all the disciples, even knowing that somebody was going to betray him. And after they finished eating, they sang a hymn together, right? So he still worshiped throughout that. And obviously, we know that Jesus has gone through situations and felt emotions that we have, and is obviously an example, which is why we read the Bible. Not only Jesus, but just other people's stories in the Bible are the blueprint of being able to know how to walk through things, look at the way that they walk through things, see what God took them through, see what the Holy Spirit did. So it's just interesting to look at it that way. And I think kind of point it back at us of, can you imagine you are in the same room, you're sitting at the same table, with somebody who you had spent a lot of time with, who you trust deeply and you've helped. And then knowing that they're going to betray you, but instead of like, hey, I'm not going to sit at this table and break bread with you guys right now. Hey, I'm not going to, go and worship. No, Jesus sat calm, cool, and collected. Okay, I just wanted to let you guys know this. And then went about, all right, let's pass the food, let's eat. Okay, we're done eating, let's go ahead and worship together. Personally, if I knew that somebody was going to betray me, first of all, I'm not going to tell them that. Second of all, I know that I would be in my feelings about it, right? Like, and I would probably, like, it probably would show all over my face, like the way that I was feeling. And I probably wouldn't even want to eat. I probably would leave. But the fact that Jesus still, with somebody who he knew was going to portray him, he still basically put love into that relationship, right? He did not hold anything against any of the disciples, even though he knew that. He still sat there and cultivated that relationship. And that's, I don't know, that's just shocking to be able to see, because I know for a lot of us, if we knew that information ahead of time, yeah, maybe be thinking some petty thoughts, maybe like, absolutely not. You want me to sit next to that person? No. So this is kind of where the love thy neighbor title comes from. We know there are a lot more stories in the Bible of loving thy neighbor. And I think, betrayal, of course, even looking at David and Psalms and all the situations that he had to walk through as well. But Jesus had like the experience of rejection, betrayal. He was wounded, right? And when we're wounded, what do we tend to do? We tend to walk away. And I say that to say, Jesus says that we're all his children. And I've been trying to flip my perspective of the way that I look at other people who have wounded me, betrayed me, made me mad, made me sad, all of the things that are not positive, right? And in those situations and in those moments, you can either get a closer relationship. And what I mean by that is maybe not necessarily with them, but with God. By going to him in those situations, okay, God, what do you want me to say in this moment, right? This is your child. What do you want me to say in this moment? What do you want me to do in this moment? Even when it's hard. Or that makes us kind of run away, right? And not necessarily that person again, but potentially running away from God. Okay, God, you allowed this person to wound me, hurt me, betray me, anger me, all of the things. So instead of me coming to you and leaning in those moments, because again, these are your children, I'm going to go the other way because I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to be the bigger person, right? So I hope that makes sense. And that hits somebody of just, it is very hard. I'm not saying it's easy. I personally have shocked myself in the way that I have dealt with certain things of, I have been going to him first, is that inkling of, okay, Holy Spirit, I don't know why I'm in this situation, but I think the best thing that we can do is pray for those people, which is a humbling experience, especially saying their names out loud, right? Like, you don't have to have a relationship with people who've done that to you. You don't have to continue to lean in those relationships, but what you should be doing is leaning into God through those situations. And again, like I said, even people at work, your bosses or whatever, this is your child, God. Continue to give me strength to be able to walk through that door to work alongside that person. We don't have to agree, but I know that you love them, and I know that you want us to love thy neighbor. So I'm going to pray for them. I'm going to have a positive attitude, because we never know the way that we act, even towards negativity, the way that that can change and shape other people. We never know that light that's coming out of us, the way that that will affect other people. I think even, people who work in customer service, or if you work with people, which is obviously like, I think a majority of us who have to talk to people. And even when they come at us sideways, so somebody who you don't have a relationship with, we can think of it that way too. The way that we respond back to that speaks volumes. And I do think that sometimes people will look back, when they've done wrong, and look at the way that we've reacted back and be like, wow, even though I acted this way, this person still treated me with love and respect. So I hope somebody else can relate, or maybe go back and just kind of look at that. I know that's just like just a very small portion of the Bible, but just kind of looking at the way that Jesus acted in that time. I mean, of course, it doesn't say what exactly he's thinking. I mean, maybe he was thinking some thoughts, but the way that he portrayed that was just so gracefully, or graceful. And I can only hope that, again, in the state that the world is in currently, we can take that as an example. And in any situation, big or small, again, you get that in practice, right? This isn't something that just you snap your finger and it happens, but being able to think a little more carefully about the way that we react, or the way that we talk, or the way that we do things before we do them, and going to God before we do it, right? I think that's the biggest thing. And I know sometimes in the moment it's like hard to just take a moment or take a breath, but thinking of how we can do that in those times. I find myself, doing that a little bit more, and I'm shocking myself with, wow, because the old me wouldn't have done that. The old me would have, done X, Y, or Z. But I think that comes again with our relationship and our intimacy with Jesus, and getting closer to him. So short, sweet, to the point, but that's the end of episode 7. In the meantime,